Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to be going into Daniel, the fourth chapter. Okay, and pretty much in the third chapter, it was dealing with the Lord put the spirit on Nebuchadnezzar to basically rear up this idol, okay, in which he wanted everybody, the wise men, the princes, all of that, to bow down to it and pay homage to it. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused, and they were thrown into the midst of a burning furnace, all right, which the Lord delivered them from, okay, to show his power. So here we are in Daniel chapter 4, and this chapter basically goes into the Lord humbling Nebuchadnezzar, and basically, giving him the mind of a beast, an animal, for a period of time, and then the Lord brings him back. All right, so let's get into it. This is Daniel chapter 4, verse 1. Now, keep in mind that from the period of Daniel, the first chapter, the second chapter, I mean, it may seem to us as just like chapters, chapter 4, just like that, but there's actually a good deal of time, that has passed between these chapters, so meaning with Daniel being like in that position he's in, his companions, right, the three holy children, them being in the positions they're in, they're actually having their day-to-day lives, right? Like they're having to work like making sure the province is good, whether it's managing finances or or just people, whatever it is, they actually had a job to do, so they will be doing that. Okay, of course the scriptures don't go into detail on that, but let's deal with the points that are highlighted in here. So it says the king acknowledges God. Daniel 4:1. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to shew the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders! His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Now keep in mind that Nebuchadnezzar is a heathen, right? He's not an Israelite. But one thing is, heathens are not stupid, okay? Heathens are not idiots, they're not like mentally deformed creatures or anything like that. Like heathens, there's some very intelligent heathens and competent, people out there. The difference is that they don't have the same rank or status as an Israelite, okay? But, heathens are still people, they're still like Hiram and, Cyrus and all these, like you have pretty, competent people out there. Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar here, he's acknowledging the Most High, right? The God of Daniel, because he's seeing the works that the Lord has wrought. Now, it doesn't mean that he's going to gain any form of, next level treatment, close or akin to that of an Israelite. That's not going to happen because he's still a heathen. But it doesn't mean that the heathens cannot acknowledge Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai. The difference is that the relationship, like, it's not going to be the same, right? The Most High doesn't deal with heathens the way he does with Israelites. So verse 4, the vision of a great tree. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house, and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and visions of my head troubled me. So here you go with his dreams again. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. So you can imagine, whenever this took place, right, be it in the daytime or in the evening or whatever, the decree is made, the announcement is made, you got to stop whatever you're doing and you got to go assemble yourself, before the king. He's looking for all the wise men. The king has requested. Verse 7, then came in the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. This is a different dream than the one that he had in Daniel the second chapter. In Daniel the second chapter, he did not tell them the dream, right? He wanted them to figure it out. But let's look at some of these terms here. You have magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. Let's see if there's some slight differences between the two. So you have magician, astrologer. Okay. I love the definitions, by the way. They're very, very detailed. Yep. Tell me a magician is a magician. That's incredible. Okay. I don't give too much in here. We can look at it in another context. But let's see what else we have. I believe this is the astrologer. It says here conjurer, enchanter, necromancer. Okay. What else do we have? Chaldean, clod breakers, the inhabitants of Chaldea living in cool. Those persons considered the wisest in the land. Okay. A Chaldean or inhabitant of Chaldea, by implication a magician or professional astrologer, Chaldean. And then you have soothsayers. Here it says, if I clicked on the right word, soothsayers. Okay, yep. The word is gazar. It says to cut, to determine. Oh, okay. It says here corresponding to 1504, to query, determine, cut out, soothsay. What else do they have here for us? To decree, to decide, establish. It says, hence the Chaldee astrologers, who from the position of the stars at the hour of birth, by various arts of computation and divining, determined the fate of individuals. It says, in the rab used of the divine decree, fate, the art of casting nativities, on which comp. Okay, so basically they would use the the stars and so on and so forth, the constellations and all of that, to with certain computations and calculations, to basically tell you what your fate is, or be able to answer certain questions for you and so on. So I guess these all had one thing in common, which was they could go past the average. I'm using intelligence for lack of a better word at this time, but of the regular man. So they had the ability to do that, although they probably had different specialties given this, but they were all nonetheless a part of the wise men of Nebuchadnezzar's council. Okay. And then you had Daniel, whose power came from the Most High, right, from the right hand side. A lot of these, they got their powers really from the left hand side. Okay. It says here, verse 8, but at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods, and before him I told the dream. Now, when you actually look up the name Belteshazzar, it's not. It's here. It says Lord of the Straitened Treasure. However, if you look down a bit more into the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it says here Bel's prince, i.e. prince whom Bel favors. Compare Baal Tasha, a termination which is added to words in the Zendic as a mark of the genitive, and Zar or Sar, prince. So Belteshazzar, the Assyrio-Babylonian name of Daniel in Nebuchadnezzar's court. All right, so that's why he said, according to the name of my God. So his chances are that name. Let me actually see if I can look it up here. Belteshazzar. No, not Belshazzar. Okay, let's look up Prophet Daniel. Of course, they got him drawn as an Edomite. All right, let's see if they say, because sometimes in the beginning of the wiki, they'll tell you a bit about the name. but I don't know if it does that here. Yeah, they don't really go too much into the name here. All right, that's fine. Let's keep going anyway. All right, so verse 9. So he's telling Daniel now, okay, look, you're pretty much my go-to guy, right? The rest of them, they couldn't answer it, so you're pretty much the go-to. So I'm going to tell you what the dream is, and then you tell me what it means. Verse 9. O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know. Now, it doesn't mean that Daniel was like some super deep sorcerer, okay? But he was in terms of at least this is what the book of Nebuchadnezzar considered him, right? In terms of all the wise men and so on and so forth, he was the top of them all. And that was because his power was coming from the, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee. Tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof. Now, what's also interesting was Daniel was blessed with the ability to interpret dreams and visions, and so was Joseph. Joseph was also blessed with that, which allowed him to be in a high position, in Pharaoh's court. Verse 10. Thus were the visions of my head in my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven. So this is a very, very tall tree, and the sight thereof to the end of the earth. A big and tall tree. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed unto it. Boughs meaning like the branches. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven. The watcher is the same as the holy one, which is talking about an angel. He cried aloud and said, hew down the tree and cut off his branches. Shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. So pretty much the angel said, cut that tree down, but leave the stump. Okay, and Daniel is going to go into break down what this dream means as we keep on reading anyway. All right, but it was letting it be known that, look, as it says, the purpose of this is that you may know that it's the Most High that rules ultimately in the kingdom of men. So whoever is in power is not by their power. It's because the Most High put them there, and he can take them off, and then he can put anybody else on there. Verse 18. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof. For as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished, which means he was astonished is like another way of saying astonished, right? For 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. Meaning that the dream was not going to be in your favor. This dream is not good news. Verse 20. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation. It is thou, O king. Thou art grown and become strong. For thy greatness is grown, and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. So that tree represented Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, and it was describing how tall and how far it spread and all of that, because the Lord raised him up, right? And like Daniel said, his dominion reached throughout, the majority of the known world. Okay, so he basically had dominion over all the peoples and so on and so forth. Verse 23. And whereas the king saw a watcher and an holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, Hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. So basically what was going to happen is Nebuchadnezzar the tree being cut down, meaning that he was going to be brought down to a low state. Okay, he was going to be brought down to a low state, but it says, yet leave the stump of his roots. So he wasn't going to be completely taken, destroyed, and he wasn't going to lose his kingdom per se. Okay, but for a period of time, he was going to be brought down to a low state. And as it says, even with a band of iron and brass, so that he couldn't, no matter what he did, he couldn't escape that condition that he would be in. Right? And let his portion be with the beasts of the field till 7 times pass over him. Now, the 7 times means 7 years. Okay, that time there is talking about a year, a time period of a year. Okay, and when you actually go into the word time, and this is used in Daniel, the 7th chapter as well, although not to be confused, in Daniel chapter 7, when it talks about a time, times, and the dividing of time, right? That time is 100-year duration. Here in Daniel 4, it's 1 year. Okay, as you can see here, it says time of duration, year. Okay. In the Strong's definition, you have here, what's the Idan or Idana? It says here, from a root corresponding to that of H5708, a set time, technically a year. Okay. What else we got here? Yeah, it says here, definite time, year. Okay. And so here it's saying 7 years, which is in Daniel chapter 4 and 13, when it talks about him having to undergo this for 7 times. And the word there was that Shabbai, okay, which I believe that Shabbat or Shabbai is 7. Okay, so here it's saying that Nebuchadnezzar would be in this condition, right? As Daniel is going to go on to expound, for 7 years. He's going to be brought down to this low condition for 7 years. Verse 25, right? That they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. And they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven. And 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. So basically, you're going to be brought down. Okay, and as the angel said, the Lord changed Nebuchadnezzar's mind to be that of a beast. So he lost the ability to think and reason like a man. And he basically started to behave like an animal. And it says his portion shall be with the beasts of the field. So he was going to eat like grass and all of that, like actual animals do. Okay, and this was going to be the Lord humbling him, lowering him down for a period of 7 years, so that he can understand that the Most High is the top dog that rules. Verse 26, and whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. So basically, you're not going to lose your kingdom, okay? But you're going to go through this for 7 years, and then the Lord is going to bring you back. And you're going to understand who's really the one that rules, who sets somebody up and brings them down. Verse 27, wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility. So take advice, take my advice, and start doing some righteous acts, and maybe it'll prolong your prosperity. Verse 28, all this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom, by the might of my power, and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. That same hour was this thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen. So he was basically put away from the company of men, and he was in a condition where he was, like it says, he did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till the hairs were grown like eagle's feathers. So his body wasn't groomed, he was super hairy, and his nails like bird's claws. His nails grew super long. So that would have been a sight to see, but let alone to have to experience that. And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven. So after 7 years passed, and mine understanding returned unto me, and I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, and he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven, and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand, or say unto him, what doest thou? So who Nebuchadnezzar is basically acknowledging that the Most High's power is absolute. Nobody, after being put through what he was put through, he understood perfectly, all right, the power of the Most High. Nobody can question the decision or the authority of the Lord, right, to say, what doest thou? At the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory. Now, when it says his heart, right, they gave him the heart of a beast, meaning his mind. Okay, the Hebrew word for heart is lab, which means your mind. So that's why he started to eat oxen and all that, and think like a beast and all of that. Verse 36, at the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned unto me, and my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Because remember, it said that they would leave the stump, so he wouldn't lose his kingdom, right? He wouldn't be completely taken out. Verse 37. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are true, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride, he is able to abase. So Nebuchadnezzar understood at that point who was really in charge. And that's pretty much it. All right, that's Daniel, the 4th chapter, where the Lord emphasizes his power and authority, by putting the book in us through this. So with that, Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Bracha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.